Every single day, I'm gonna make something great. That's my way.
What is going on, my dudes? Today's a very, very special day because I have my car in SV Motorsports right now getting its 80,000 mile marker maintenance, which includes stuff like changing the spark plugs, the serpentine belt, hopefully not because that's a lot of money, oil change, yada yada yada. I'm getting a really, really good deal, but I think I got even a better deal because this Carrera 4S convertible with a manual transmission, check this out, is going to be mine for the entire day. And right now we're hanging out by the beach right now, and I thought I'd bring it out here and test ride it for you guys and let you know what I think of it. Yeah, should be fun. And with that said, let's get going with this review. So this car is completely stock. There's nothing that's been changed about it. You have these stock rims. I believe they look like 17 or 18 inch rims. This is a 2006 model, so it's the first generation of the 997 model. And I'm just really excited that this thing is a convertible and it's a manual transmission. Let's get inside and see what this thing looks like. Oh, I don't know if you noticed that, but one thing I do want to point out is that this car has 22,000 miles. And when it opens up a little bit, it's a little bit rough. Maybe it's because of these things here and because it's a convertible. You heard that little clunk sound? So it doesn't sound too good, but that's probably something that can be fixed. All right, let's turn this baby on. But first, I want to open up these windows so you can hear how it sounds. Oh yeah, turn on sport and definitely take off bumpy mode because that's something that all 2006 and yeah, I think all 997s have an issue with this bumpy button, which we'll discuss later on. So one thing is immediate in this car, and that's this beautiful cream interior. I absolutely love this beautiful cream interior. And you know what would make it look a lot better? I think if we put down the top, if we put up the top actually, it's gonna make the car look a lot better. Let's try that. Oh my God. Beautiful sunny day, right by the beach, and a black 911 convertible. Life can't get any better than this. Wow. So back to the interior. I'm coming from a 991.1 generation, and getting inside of this car, it's definitely 911, but it's a little bit outdated. You got like a million buttons over here, and if you take a look at the temperature gauge and this button here that increases or decreases the amount of air that you get out of these vents, you can see that it looks a little bit dated. And these buttons here, they've been, I don't know, because it's been used so much. I mean, with this car, it's only got 22,503 miles. So, I mean, for it to deteriorate like this at 22,000 miles, I don't know. I think it could be done a little bit better than that. Shoddy build quality, who knows? But regardless, that's one thing I thought I'd point out. These buttons are wearing out and over here because it's been used a lot. But otherwise, this car is pretty well equipped. It's got the sport button, which is pretty standard, and then it's got the bumpy button, which all 997s, you consider this the bumpy button. I've driven the 997 GT3 on the track, and when I used the bumpy button, I didn't feel any difference, and it didn't make me any faster on the track. But on this car, I'm assuming it's going to be the same way. This car I'm driving right now is the four-wheel drive version. It's the Carrera 4S. I'm glad it has the S in the end because that means it's got a few extra horsepower. And the sport button, it makes a difference in this car, believe it or not. So as far as the interior is concerned, for a car being 14, 15 years old, the interior leather feels absolutely amazing. I mean, if I close my eyes and you ask me how many miles this car has, I wouldn't be able to tell you. The car has 22,000 miles, but when I'm feeling this, the leather feels absolutely great. It hasn't deteriorated. The steering wheel looks and feels pretty good. And these 997 cars, they're pretty much very, very famous for having the hydraulic steering, and that's something that all 911 owners complained about in the beginning. So this car should have the better steering, and this is something that we're going to experience once we're driving, and I'll talk a little bit more about it. Let's see. All right, that opens nice and slowly. I like that. Aside from this screen here, okay, aside from this screen here looking like it's from 2001, it is not a touch screen. It's got a million buttons. These numbers here are obviously for making a phone call, because I think you can put your SIM card somewhere in here. I don't remember where, but there is a place where you can put your SIM card and you can start making phone calls with this. I don't know what they were thinking of in 2006 when they actually put this here. Oh, wait a minute, could this be it? Yeah, here it is. So you put your SIM card in this little spot here, and then that connects with whatever, and then you start making phone calls here. This is, I think, before they had Bluetooth and all that other junk. But if you're gonna buy this car, if you're in the market for a first generation, second generation 997, and your car does come with something like this, I'm not sure if the second generations do, honestly consider all of this to be irrelevant. If you want to listen to the radio, fine, but believe it or not, this still has a CD player, and I think the person who sold this car or traded it in left his CD in here. I have no idea what's inside of the CD, and I'm a little afraid of playing what's on that CD, but at the moment we're going to leave it as is. But I just thought I'd point out that the screen is useless. The navigation is obviously useless because it's probably outdated. You don't want to use that because you're going to get lost. That's a guarantee. But you know, the person who's, let's get going. The person who's going to buy this car, they're going to realize that other cars are better than this, and other cars are more equipped than this, but they're not going to buy this car because of the stereo or how great the navigation is. Everybody's well aware that these kind of cars are pretty much outdated with electronics. So with that being said, let's talk about the reasons why people would buy this car. Look at these people. You gotta love California. Skater boys, skater girls. By the way, we are in Highway 101 right now, and this is a beautiful stretch of road. I thought I'd bring you guys here with me. Let's hear that sound. Classic 911 for you, baby. Oh yeah. All right, so what kind of person would buy this kind of car? The kind of person who would buy this kind of car over a 991 generation. Now granted, by the way, FYI, before I begin, let's talk about the previous generations before the 997. So back in the prehistoric days, you had the 996, and then you also had the 993. The 996 and the 993, by the way, this is a layman's perspective. I'm not a pro or anything like that. I'm just giving you a brief explanation and an example of what I think about the earlier generations compared to the new generations. So the 996 and the 993s were like the Sega Genesis and Super Nintendo. Those cars were great cars, but you know, they were just beginning and they had a lot to improve on. So fast forward a little bit, you got the 997 car. The 997 car is like the PS2 or PS3. Or like the regular Xbox or Xbox, not the Xbox One, but it's like the regular Xbox and the PS1 or PS2. And then fast forward to the current generations, you got the 991, and the 991 is similar to like an Xbox One or a PS3. And then if you want like the 992, then you have the newest Xbox One X or whatever the hell it is these days, and the PS4. So every single generation they got a little bit better and better, and this generation I would definitely consider to be something along the lines of those earlier video game systems. They still had a lot to improve, But the earlier video game systems, they weren't relying a lot on graphics and sound. They were relying more on fun factor. And I believe the kind of person who would buy this car buys it for the fun factor. No, it doesn't have the best navigation system. It doesn't have all the electronics and gimmicks. The 992 generation, the brand new generations have sport mode, they have wet mode, they have all these different types of modes, 8-way traction control. I don't know, I mean, I'm just assuming here. They have different types of electronics that will allow your car to slide a little bit. This car doesn't have all that kind of stuff. It's got a sport mode, and that's basically it. And this wing could be put up and down, and I don't even know why you would want to put the wing up and down. The person who's going to buy this car has no idea what the wing does, because it's just a regular person who buys this car. But I mean, aside from that, it doesn't really have that many options. So the kind of person who would buy this kind of car is somebody who wants to feel the road. A person who's going to buy this car is not going to buy it for speed, because obviously the 991.1 and 992 generation cars, although they're a lot of money, they're a lot faster than this car. I don't know how much horsepower this car has. I'm going to put it on the show notes, or I might just make a comment on the video. But my 991.1 generation has 400 horsepower. I believe this is somewhere around the 350 range, maybe a little bit less than that. So I'm not exactly buying this car for the speed, but I am buying it because it does have hydraulic steering and it is a manual transmission car. And obviously this car is going to be a lot cheaper these days than most of the 991s and the 992s. The 992s being starting around 130, 140 with options and everything. You're talking about 160 in price. So we're talking a lot of money here, and that's pushing the envelope. So if you're the kind of person who's interested in buying a budget 911, a 997 convertible such as this one, or something with a little bit more high mileage, can get you in the door for anywhere between 35,000, 40,000 all the way up to 50,000, 60,000, like this particular model here. This model here costs $50,000, 51 or 52,000 from SV Motorsports. You can check out their website, and I'll also put a link down in the description below. And you can contact them and make a deal with them. They're not paying me, and I'm not endorsed by them to write this review and make this review for you guys. They just loaned me this car because I have my car in their dealership getting serviced at the moment. So I thought, why not? Let's get this thing out in the open road and test drive it for you guys. But what do I think of the driving characteristics of this car? Well, first of all, I think it handles pretty good for a 2006 model. This is the first generation 997s that came out, and before this it was the 996 models. The 996 models, honestly, they were pretty crap cars, and they improved greatly with the 997 models. They kept the hydraulic steering, they kept the manual transmission, and the overall feel of how this car feels, and they made it more powerful, obviously. But the steering feels amazing. It's not as comfortable as my 991 generation car, but every generation has gotten a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more supple. So you're not going to buy this car and expect to be comfortable driving it, because it's not that kind of car. But off the line, it's pretty quick and it sounds amazing. Yeah, that sounded awesome. So I think 0 to 60, this car does somewhere around 4.5 seconds. But once again, you're not going to buy this car because you want to go fast. You buy this car because you want a classic 911. I don't know, is a 15-year-old car a classic, or is it after 20 years it becomes a classic? I don't know, but regardless, I love the way this car feels. The steering does have a little bit play in it. My 911, my 991 generation, if you do this, it darts. The steering is very, very direct. I would say it's about 50% more direct than this. So right now, as you can see, it's got a little bit play in the steering. So I actually have to move it a lot if I want to move. But the car is pretty planted for a 2006 model. It's very, very planted. Overall, the seats are very, very good quality. I can drive this car for days and I'll feel very, very comfortable. Ergonomics are amazing in this car. It doesn't have a lot of buttons on the dash. It's a very, very simple car for people who just like simplicity. I mean, you get in this car, you don't get in it to use your gadgets or to be on your cell phone. You get in this car and you really don't have a destination. You get inside of this car and you drive for miles and miles and miles without a destination. This is the kind of car for that. 911s are great tourer cars. They're the kind of, specifically this car, you can take this car grocery shopping, you can take this car to the track, you can take this car canyon carving, and then bring it back home, and you can do all of that on the same weekend. And this is what I love about 911s, because they're like, you know, a car that you can do most anything with. When I lived in New York, I saw people who had ski racks on top of their cars, on top of their roofs, and people in New York, this was their only car, so they went skiing with it. And if you have the 4S model like this, I don't see why not. And as far as comfort is concerned, you do feel the bumps in this car. It's not as comfortable as the 991 generation. Every generation of the 911 has become a little bit more comfortable, a little bit softer, but at the same time, it handles a whole lot better. Oh, and one other thing I want to point out about the 997 generation. The tire pressure monitor has an issue with these cars. When I had a 2007 GT3, let's pass that guy, he's a little noisy. When I had my 997 GT3, the GT3 always had an issue with the tire pressure monitor. I brought it to the dealership, and no matter what they did, they couldn't fix it. So that's something that, if you get a 997, that's something you're gonna have to deal with, and this thing on the dash is gonna come on all the time. Anyways, I thought I'd point that out since it just came on. So that's a 997 issue. But let's go back to the comfort of this car. So in this car, you're gonna feel all the bumps. And now, let's talk about this PASM little button over here. This PASM button over here makes the car really, really bumpy. And any 997 owner knows that that is, instead of PASM, you want to call that the Bumpy Button, because it really doesn't do anything, to be honest with you, except makes your car a little bit more bumpier. Now, I know Porsche created the PASM, and they've refined it as the years and as the generations progressed. On my 991 button, when I push the PASM button, it does not make the car any bumpier. It actually makes it handle better, and I can feel it when I'm on the track, and I can feel it when I'm on the curves and twisties and canyons and whatnot. But on the road, you push this and everything gets a lot more bumpier and it gets a lot more uncomfortable. I think something that is a lot more uncomfortable would be better than this. Let me see if I can think of something a lot more uncomfortable that would be better than this. How about sleeping on a bed of rocks? Yeah, I think that would be a lot more comfortable than pushing the PASM button on a 997. So my recommendation, if you get one of these cars, do not push that button. Sport automatically turns that on, but you want to turn that off as soon as you push Sport, and then you're good to go. And when you're sitting in this car, now that we're sitting here at a stoplight, when you're sitting in this car at a stoplight, it's relaxing, it's comfortable, it's an everyday car. People still look at this car even though it's a 2006 model. I'm sitting in traffic once in a while, and I've been driving this car for about 4 or 5 hours, and I noticed that people love to stare at this car. It's a 2006 model, it's black, it's a 911, and it's a soft top convertible. And the interior is gorgeous. I absolutely love this interior. So it does get looks. It is a 15-year-old model, but that's the thing I love about cars. That's the thing I love about 997s and Porsches in general. They're timeless. You get inside of a 911, you get inside of a Porsche, and it's a timeless, it's a classic model. Porsches are the kind of cars that are not revolutionary. They're more evolutionary. They evolve very, very slowly. But the 911 is the kind of car that people will still love, people will still recognize, and people will still look at to this day. And you're definitely going to get a lot of attention driving this car. Obviously, you're not going to get the type of attention that you would get from driving a Ferrari or Lamborghini. But that being said, it is the type of car that will get you attention, and it's a whole lot of fun. I've had a lot of smiles on my face while I've been driving this car, and I think mainly it has to do with this convertible. The convertible on this car definitely makes a huge difference And if you live in the West Coast like I do, I live in beautiful sunny San Diego. I would say 90% of the year it's sunny out in San Diego, and it hardly ever rains over here. So if you live in a place like San Diego, do yourself a favor, get yourself a convertible. If you can get a convertible, I think you would really enjoy it. Like I said, the kind of person who buys this car is not going to buy it to track this kind of car. This is, in my opinion, a classic car. You don't want to deal with the issues that may come up if you buy this car. Why go through all the headaches? Instead, buy yourself a newer car with warranty to take it to the track. But you want to buy this car to drive in the neighborhood, to go on the coastal highways like I am, and to just take it grocery shopping and take your kids on a little drive, or maybe take your wife or a girlfriend on a date, or even your mom for that matter. I'm sure she's going to love sitting next to you with the top down, and you guys can just, you know, have your mom and son or mom and daughter moment. It's a great family car. Kids can sit in the back. I wouldn't dare put an adult back there. It's kind of humiliating, and plus there's no leg room. You'd have to saw his legs off or her legs off. But it's great for kids. This is the kind of car that this is, and this is the reason why I would buy this car. Oh yes. Oh yes. Listen to that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this review is coming to an end. I hope you took some pointers and got my perspective of what I think of this car, mainly the 997 generation. I still have a place in my heart for the 997 generation because I own the 997 GT3. So this car is very near and dear to my heart. I love that it's so raw, and it doesn't have all the electronics and gimmicks that the new 992 generation does. I drove the new 992 generation. It's too PlayStation 4-y for me. It's got way too many gadgets, LCD screens everywhere. I'm using my iPhone every 10 minutes looking for text messages and getting bothered by notifications and blah blah blah. Give me a break. I don't need to have that in my car. Yeah, I get it. It's 2019. In a couple of months, it's going to be 2020. But I don't need all the fancy electronics, and I don't need all the fancy gimmickry. This car is for the purist. This car is for somebody who wants to drive. This is a driver's car. If you're a driver, you belong in this seat. If you're a driver, you should buy this car. If you're someone with a lot of money and you're a driver, then you know what? Maybe you can buy that 992 generation, and what I said doesn't really matter, or it doesn't apply to you, and that's fine. To each his own. I'm not saying the 992 is a bad car. All I'm saying is that with every generation, and I'm sorry to say this, and this is pretty controversial of me saying this, but with every single generation, the 911 car, or the 911 sports car, has been getting softer and softer. And when I say softer, I'm not talking about suspension. I'm talking about, as a car, it is no longer a hairy-chested man's car. In my opinion, the 997 generation, the 991.1, and actually, let's go back here. The 991.1 generation and going back has always been a hairy-chested man's car. These 992 generation cars, they're softer. They're more like an accountant's car. Way too many gadgets, way too many gimmicks. It's a perfect car for an accountant. It's a perfect car for somebody who works in technology and they love all these fancy gadgets and gimmicks, and they just got a raise and they want to go buy the most fanciest car in the world. And you know what? They don't really have a passion for going canyon carving or taking it to the track. They just want that Porsche symbol. They just want that brand, so they buy that car. That's what the 992 generation Porsches have become. These 997 generations, these 991.1 generations, this is a 997. The 991.1 and going down have always been driver's car, have always been hairy-chested man's cars. And my dudes, this is just my opinion. And I don't know. I mean, I'm just being honest with you, and I'm being truthful with you. And this has been my honest review of what I think of this car. Let's go back once again and take a look at the outside of this car. And if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. And I post videos 3 times a week, just like this. And thank you for joining me for this lovely 997 0.1 generation C4S Carrera 911. And I'll see you next time. Take care, my dudes.